If you feel like your property taxes went up after politicians promised you they'd go down, you're not crazy, you're being played. Good evening, and welcome to Texas Talkin, the only show where we translate political jargon into plain English and occasionally check to make sure your wallet is still in your back pocket. I'm your host, Shiloh Platts, spirit animal of the Texas right, here to say what everyone's thinking while the consultants are still polishing talking points somewhere between Karl Rove's whiteboard and Rick Perry trying to remember which agencies he wants to cut. Now, tonight, folks, we've got a conversation you're not supposed to have out loud, but we're going to have it anyway, as we usually do, because something strange is happening in Texas politics. And no, it's not just the usual Austin weirdness. You've got radical left-wing lunatics like James Talarico out there pushing ideas that sound less like Texas and more like a group chat between a barista, a yoga instructor, and some guy who just discovered socialism last Tuesday at a San Francisco bathhouse. I mean, this is someone who's gone on record saying God is non-binary and arguing that the transgender community needs abortion care too. Think about that for a second. That's not a policy debate. That's a gender studies seminar that somehow escaped onto the House floor. And look, people can believe whatever kind of crazy they want. It's a free country. But when that kind of worldview threatens to shape public policy, voters, you have a right to raise an eyebrow, and maybe both of them. And then, right on cue, the state rolls out what they proudly call a property tax cut, a tax cut. That would be great if it actually cut your taxes. But here's the trick, and it's a good one, almost impressive in a cynical sort of way. Lawmakers lower the rate, and then local appraisal districts quietly jack up your home value like they're running a Vegas shell game. Lower rate, higher valuation, same or bigger bill. Congratulations, you've just been cut. It's like a magician telling you he made your wallet lighter while his assistant walks off with your watch. And voters are noticing. Because during the 2026 Texas primaries, something else happened that should have set off alarms. Democrat turnout ticked up. Not exploded, but enough to matter. Enough to signal energy. That's not panic time, folks, but it is wake-up time. Because Texas doesn't flip overnight. As we've said before, right here on this program, on numerous occasions. It erodes slowly, one cycle at a time, one bad assumption at a time, one we've got this in the bag at a time, one let's work with the Democrats talking point at a time. And the truth is, Republicans can absolutely win in Texas this November. In fact, I've got steak dinner bets on the line that we will. The map still favors us. The issues certainly still favor us. The voters still lean our way, but only if we stop pretending everything is fine. Only if we stop selling tax cuts that don't feel like tax cuts. Only if we draw a very clear, unmistakable contrast with the kind of policies being pushed by extremists like Talarico. And right now, too many Texans are looking at their property tax bill and asking a very simple question. Who exactly is on my side? That's where tonight's guest comes in. Former Texas House candidate David Covey has been right in the middle of a few fights. And if you care about where Texas is headed, you're going to want to hear what he has to say. Because if Austin's going to keep playing shell games, somebody's got to flip the table. And tonight, we might do just that. Let's get dialed in. And joining us now is a good friend of mine, and incidentally, a good friend of Texas Talkin. David, I believe you now have more appearances than anybody else on the program. Joining us now is, of course, David Covey, former candidate for the Texas House of Representatives and current candidate for vice chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. David, welcome back.
Good to be here, Shiloh. And of course, I watch your program, so it's good to hear some of your monologues here in person.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And as always, we invite anybody in Texas who has an interest in current events and politics to follow our page. It's real easy. Just go up to the top, click the follow button. But David, I didn't bring you on here to help me generate more followers. I brought you on here because I want to ask you a couple of things. First of all, should Texans, especially Texas Republicans, be worried about lunatic James Talarico, leftist lunatic James Talarico, who is running for a seat in the United States Senate? Should we be worried about this?
It's really incredible that James Talarico has even come as far as he has. I mean, this guy, he just looks like the type of neighbor that you wouldn't trust to feed your cat while you're gone on a vacation, and well, just a little too slick to be around the family. But the things he says are really the things that scare me. And he wants to re-envision what it means to be a Texan, what it means to be a Republican, and it's frankly dangerous for him to even be close to the levers of power.
I couldn't agree more. So, what do you think his chances are in November? Do you think that Republicans, that we stand a better chance of winning that election? I happen to think so. And that opinion is, of course, not shared by everybody. But I think regardless of who our nominee is, whether it be Ken Paxton, who, of course, I support and will be voting for, or if it's John Cornyn, I think either one of those candidates, Texans will resonate, that they will resonate more with Texas voters than James Talarico. What say you?
I agree. The message is what resonates, and people are looking at their paychecks and they're going, this is costing us too much just to live. And then Talarico's out here promoting a income tax, and wants to take more taxes and give more handouts and increase what we're doing for those that don't even pull their weight. And people are saying we have enough trouble paying for our family and getting ahead, as it were, helping our kids get ahead, much less to take more of our money. The taxes were never supposed to be that. So he's dangerous on the economy. He's dangerous on social issues. I mean, Talarico is the one, he wants to see boys and girls sports. And I mean, we've seen time after time examples of women getting hurt because progressive liberals want to put the guys in the same arena with the girls.
Where are the feminists when you need them, yes, right? The so-called women's rights advocates.
Absolutely anti-women and claims to be pro-women. And then one of his interviews that he did, he said, that the folks that have babies are our neighbors with uteruses. Can't even define
women.
What a woman is.
There's a word for it. It's been around for thousands of years.
That's right.
It's a woman.
That's right.
Same guy who said God is non-binary, right? That the trans community deserves to have abortion care too, as I mentioned in my monologue. It is nuts.
It's not. Shiloh, how many neighbors do you have with uteruses that are not women? That's the question I want to know.
Zero.
Yeah. If they can't even get that right, how do you trust them to make common sense governing decisions? And I think that's the point with the Democrats is it's the whole Obama Biden party, but it's more than that. It's the Mandami, it's the AOC party,
yes,
that has been taken over, and they don't have a lick of common sense left to be able to govern. And so it's very dangerous for Texans to let anyone like him come around, frankly.
I couldn't agree with you more. You mentioned something a minute ago, and that's this tax and spend philosophy that the left is well known for. So I think we might have been sold sort of a shoddy bill of goods ourselves as Republican voters because of the way I'm seeing this whole property tax issue unfold, right? We were told that the largest tax cut in Texas history was passed. And while on paper that may be true, of course, property taxes, the homestead exemption was raised, but now you have these local appraisal districts. I got my appraisal maybe about 2 weeks ago. And after I peeled myself off of the ceiling, when I saw how much my home value had gone up, I've noticed there is a shell game of sorts going on here. These local appraisal districts raise the valuation of home properties, of your home, your property. And so in the end, I mean, are we really getting a tax cut? If your appraisal value goes up, your property taxes go up incidentally, right?
You pretty much nailed it. It's a shell game. And so the state blames the school district and the county blames the state, and the finger pointing is every which way. Meanwhile, your taxes keep going up. And as I recall, our good buddy Dave Phelan sent flyers
Very
out,
good
which I,
buddy.
by the way, still have, which talked about how he provided the largest tax decreased tax cut in history. In history, and
Human
the
history,
funny
I'm sure.
thing, human history, I'm pretty sure. The funny thing is our taxes still went up, and here we are after having multiple. I mean, it really is every election cycle, every politician. We gave you this large tax cut, and then yet it's still there. I mean, when are we going to do something serious? And I think our friend Steve Toth, who so proud
An
that he's
actual
now
friend.
going to Congress, actual friend, the real friend. He always said you have to cut spending. If you're not addressing spending, you're not addressing taxes. And that's so true. And you can't go in and spend on every program, enhance, build the government, continue to grow the government, add benefits to those that don't contribute, and expect that you're going to reduce the taxes. So taxes is a spending problem, and the government, they don't know, frankly, how to roll it back. They don't know how to have restraint and not spend the money. And so we have to send actual conservatives there that will stand up for you, stand up for me, and say, okay, is that the job of government? I mean, that's really what it means to
A
be
fundamental
conservative.
question.
Yes. Is it the job of government to do this? And if it's not, then let's cut it, and let's take that out and stop making Texans pay for things that really aren't the government's job in the first place.
And we've seen so many different examples of these wild spending bills and all these government funded. And I'm going to take my own advice. I just recently on Facebook said, stop calling it government funded. It is taxpayer funded. And see, I've already fallen back into the trap because that's the nomenclature they like to use. That's the narrative we've been fed is government funded. These taxpayer funded programs that we have on all kinds of goofy things that you really, I think, have to add a question, sort of a litmus test, as you just mentioned. Is this the role and function of government?
That's right, and I think we agree that even property taxes are, in my opinion, immoral. I know certainly some people say we're never going to get rid of property taxes. I believe we can, and I believe we should, because ultimately people should be able to retire and own their property. You should be able to own your property freely, clear, once it's paid off, and not these repetition of tax layers that just get settled, especially on our older senior retired folks that are just ridiculous. But even people our age, as we move and try to save and plan for the future, I mean, it's hard to envision a world where we get there where we can retire with the creeping tax burden that's on us. That's going to be a challenge for everyone. How do you get there? And until the state decides to take this serious, cut the spending, reform the way that taxes are collected, and especially school districts, which are the majority of our taxes, how is that funded? Then it's going to be hard for people to see a path to retirement, and ultimately, how do you get there? So
I believe
I
I saw
think that's a big question.
Yeah, I do too. And I believe it's one that Governor Abbott wants to address. I believe I saw something recently where he said that the legislature will not break, basically not leave in this next session until this property tax issue is adequately addressed. And without getting too wonky on policy details, he's talking about these appraisal caps as part of his plan. What are your thoughts, peeling back what the governor has laid out? What are your thoughts on his property tax reform plan, and how likely do you think it is that we'll be able to coalesce around a plan that actually works?
It's going to be interesting because some of the things that are good for the rural counties are not necessarily good for the larger counties. And so, they operate on different budgets. The rural counties have less money to go around. But ultimately, I do think caps are a great start. I do think voter approval is a good thing when it comes to this. I do think those elections should be held in November. This is the mafia, the tax lobbyist mafia that pushes these elections. No one knows
When
when
no
some
one
of these.
shows up.
Yes, yeah, it's always the no-show elections where that have the largest, school bonds and the increases. That needs to be on a November ballot where people are already going to vote and they can make their voice heard. But that's a side trail. That needs to happen because that's how a lot of these actually get slipped through. But it needs to have caps. I mean, ultimately, and they need to restructure where the money's coming from, so that there can't be this. We need one throat to choke. The finger pointing. This is not working.
Hence where the shell game comes in, and nobody knows what the hell's going on.
That's right. That's right. Give us one throat to choke. It needs to be someone's responsibility, and we can kick their tail out of there if it keeps climbing. And someone needs to be responsible.
Well, speaking of responsibility, the last topic that I wanted to cover with you and talk about tonight is Democrat turnout in the primaries. This is sort of a red flag to me. I don't think it's a five-alarm fire, but we have seen a spike in Democrat turnouts. We did see, rather, in the Texas primaries that we just had back in March. Again, I don't want to raise all kinds of alarm bells. I do think it's something we should be paying attention to, and I want to ask you, how do you believe we should respond to that, and what do we need to do to ensure Republican wins this November?
Absolutely. The wins. I wrote a book, this called Hometown Politics. This was probably 8-10 years ago now, and the premise is that all politics are local, and everything starts at the bottom. And I really think that's true. I think that we have to engage and continue to build communities from the local level, the precinct level, the county chair, and across county lines in Senate district and House district, building relationships where we can continue to mobilize and have a permanent structure as Republicans, so that we can register new voters. We can get the list of new movers into counties and contact them, make sure they're registered, introduce ourselves. I'm the Republican precinct chair, and I want to welcome you to the neighborhood. I think the winning and making sure that Republicans stay engaged is something that really is going to be a local issue level. And so,
the
just
buck
making
stops
sure that
with local county chairmen, right, to get the vote out.
it
It really does.
It does. It does. And they need obviously the resources.
Yes.
When I was a county chair in Orange County, we raised more funds than the party had in many, many years. And then we were giving actually funds to our precinct chairs and supplies. We were able to give money to candidates even. And so, but it's important that we're equipping our local parties with the knowledge and then the ability to go out and just recruit people and make those relationships. It starts with, the concept of loving our neighbor. I heard an interview that Ben Sass did on 60 Minutes. It was fantastic. He has terminal cancer, but very sad, but very insightful. And he said, you can't love millions and millions of people in America per se, but you can love your neighbor. You can love your family. You can love your coworkers. And if we lead with that message, starting locally, serving each other, loving each other, helping each other, if you can learn to love your community, you can learn to love your country again.
Amen.
And so we need people getting, off their digital devices and going down to a local Republican meeting, going down to the Rotary Club, going down, to these meetings, press some flash, hug somebody. I think that's what really builds a party, a community, and a state. And the Democrats, they push against that. They don't want contact.
No,
I
they
mean,
don't.
they would like to put everybody in a box, give them a phone, and
Be
you can text when you
preoccupied
need
with
something.
your device. Yeah, we'll text instead of talk. That's such a smart
Absolutely.
point, David, and I think it sort of speaks to another, I think, important issue as well, which is unity. And I don't mean that we all unify behind a personality, or any one individual candidate. What I do mean by that is I think we unify. We need to unite behind our party's platform and its principles. And then we have our fights, in the Republican primaries. We argue and debate over who the best Republican nominee is. And then I think after the primary happens, when we have these contested races like the one that we have right now in the United States Senate or for Attorney General in Texas, these runoff elections that we're about to have later this month, I think that it's so important that we as Republicans, even if we have some serious differences with those candidates, we unify behind them as our nominee for November, or else we could have a situation where Democrats pick up wins because some Republicans are so determined to have their Republican candidate win in the runoff or the primary or the runoff that they just don't show up. And I think that's a tragedy.
It is. The Patriots are the ones who keep showing up. They love their country. They didn't get in it because of one campaign. They didn't get in it because of one person. They're in the process because it's just part of life. We believe we give back to our communities by serving in politics. And when we don't win one race, it doesn't mean everybody else is evil and
Correct.
we write them off. You keep going, and you're going to win some, you're going to lose a lot,
Yeah.
but you keep fighting. And the people that show up, those are the patriots. And so I've been doing this since 2008, mostly because my parents drugged me to my first convention, precinct convention and county convention. And then once you taste it, how you can make a difference, it
It gets
really
in your
does.
blood.
It's in your blood.
Gets in your
And
blood.
you think, how can you be an American? How can you be a Texan and not participate and try to shape the way your state's going? Because there are bad guys out there that really don't like the way things are or should be.
Yes, people who want to fundamentally change the Texas that we all love. I moved here because I believe Texas is a special place. I moved here back in 2018. As you well know, I love it here. And I would absolutely it would hurt me to see our state, turn over into leftist Democrat control, because there goes Texas, the Texas that we all know and love. And so this is a very important issue to me. I think the threat is real. I don't think that it's something that can't be overcome, but we need to work hard and we need to get together and make sure that we don't allow that to happen.
And Republicans have been somewhat complacent in the sense that we've been winning every statewide race since 1996 ish,
Yeah, over 30
and
years.
so over 30 years, and so we've in some ways become complacent, and it's time to step back up and say, we have to work just as hard. I listened to an interview where the Democrats are talking about how they're mobilizing and they're working to create a structure. Um, they don't need that opportunity. We could shut that down right now. I honestly believe Texans are conservative. They just need to hear and see that Republicans do what we say we're going to do.
I couldn't have said it better, and that's why I had you on tonight, because you did. So the next task at hand for us is going to be the state convention in June in Houston. I know you'll be there because, as I mentioned in your intro, you're running for vice chairman of the Republican Party of Texas. Good luck to you, David. Thank you for coming on tonight. I always appreciate your perspective, value your friendship. May God bless you, and may God continue to bless the great state of Texas. Thank you for helping us keep Texas talking.
God bless you, Shiloh. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Stay dialed in to interviews and content just like this by clicking that follow button on my Facebook page, or hit the subscribe button to learn more about exclusive access that you won't want to miss.